Craig Button with us this morning. We're going to get to the Oilers and Golden Knights, obviously, but we got to start with these 2 Game 7s over the weekend. We asked the question earlier, like, did Mikko Rantanen have, considering the stakes and what was against, was that like the best period in the history of the National Hockey League by a player for Mikko Rantanen?
Yeah, I don't think try to find another one. How about this, Dustin? How about back-to-back games with best periods?
Yeah.
I mean, Game 6, I thought that Game 6 was over after the performance in the second period. Then the Dallas Stars seemingly down and out, and Mikko Rantanen, unbelievable performance. Like an unbelievable performance by Mikko Rantanen. And I think what makes it even more incredible is you talk about the dagger into your former team's heart. Unbelievable. Ray Ferraro was on the call for ESPN. He said, I can't tell you what he said, but it was heartfelt.
Roller coaster as well in Winnipeg last night, Craig. Leaving it till the very end to tie things up, double overtime. Just your thoughts on that whole wild scene and one of the more physical series as well from the opening round.
Yeah, I think, Eric, we've come to expect that the playoffs are going to be physical, and certainly Winnipeg and St. Louis, put it on full display. It was so amazing to just sit back and watch. When Nemesnikov scored, you're going, okay, minute 55, they got a chance. They have a chance. And one of the things that you watch happen too, and it was really interesting. There was a timeout. There was a goal kind of review, like did the puck cross the goal line? There was some icings. So Scott Arniel had rested players. Remember what happened last year in Game 7 with the Oilers? Like they couldn't get a timeout. They couldn't get their top players rested. In the last minute of the game, they had nothing. They had no gas in the tank. So for the Winnipeg Jets, they had lots of gas in their tank because there was all these time between icings, the review on the goal, everything, a TV timeout. So their players were well rested to get after it. And, it's interesting when you watch a team kind of sag. Like I know how St. Louis plays, but it looked like they sagged. It looked like as the game was going on, they were sagging more and more and more. When you look at the third period, the first overtime, the second overtime, I know St. Louis had a couple of quality chances, but they weren't that ferocious forechecking on you team in the first overtime or the second overtime game. And I thought Winnipeg, you talk about pulling one out of your hat. The Winnipeg Jets did exactly that. And I'm Dr. Seuss.
Great fun with us on the show this morning. I was thinking that before you said it. I thought that was funny. Quickly on that series, before we move over to the Oilers here, who do you like, Jets or Stars? What's that series come down to?
Yeah, well, I don't know when Heiskanen and Robertson are coming back, but I think Nathan McKinnon nailed it. He said they were missing their best defenseman and maybe their best forward or one of their best forwards in Jason Robertson. We couldn't beat them. If Scheifele isn't healthy, if Morrissey isn't healthy, I think it's just an uphill battle. When they got through that first round, Dallas against Colorado, knowing they're getting Heiskanen and Robertson back, I almost think it puts them right back into the front of the Western Conference contenders to get to the Stanley Cup final. So I have Dallas, just because of getting those two players back and a little bit of uncertainty around Morrissy and Scheifele.
Craig Button with us on the show this morning. If you're watching over on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. Oilers and Golden Knights. What did we learn about Edmonton in the first round of the playoffs, Craig? What's your biggest takeaway moving into this second round?
I'm going to give you two. So okay. The first one is they've been battle tested. They've been battle tested over the last number of years, and I think that came out in a big way. The other thing I'm going to say is I don't care if you're up 3-0 in a series. I don't care if you're up by 3 or 4 goals in the third period. The Edmonton Oilers have shown time and time and time again now that they are never down and out. Any team that thinks that they have the Edmonton Oilers down and out that are making a crucial mistake. There's no such thing as protecting a lead against the Edmonton Oilers because the Edmonton Oilers don't see any lead that's insurmountable. And we all know how great McDavid and Draisaitl are, but the depth of the Oilers really shone through. I think that the biggest question at the beginning of the year, going into the playoffs, was how are they going to build out their team? No Ekholm. We know that's a significant absence, but the depth came through. But anybody that wants to sleep on the Edmonton Oilers, and I'm going to say it here right now, Chris Knobloch is one of the NHL's best coaches. And I'm not talking about the X's and O's. He's got the courage of his convictions. He doesn't fiddle with the dials. He needs to do something, he does it. And he doesn't worry about being second guessed. He doesn't worry about what the ramifications could be. He's only focused in on what's best for his team and what he sees as best. I think he's been a brilliant tactician behind the bench. And I'm gonna give a little rant. I'm sick and tired of people in Edmonton go, oh, I'd like to see him get all mad. I'd like to see him lose it. Shut up, Edmonton fans. You got a great coach.
Well said, Craig, and that leads into my question here. Stuart Skinner getting some time in the starters net practice. Where do you think he goes with that, or is this just mind games from the brilliant tactician that you just mentioned?
I don't think Chris plays mind games, Eric. I think Chris says, this is the guy that gives me the best chance to win. We saw it last year. I mean, in a game where they needed a goaltending change and a goaltending performance, I mean, that was in the second round. He went right to it. He never hesitated. He went here. I mean, so we go, okay, 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, 4 games. You know, one thing about Chris Knobloch, he's going to look at it and go, okay, do we have Stuart Skinner reset? Sometimes goaltenders just need a reset. We saw it last year in the playoffs. We saw Stuart come back and really play well. Now, if he's going to go with him, Chris Knobloch is starting him because he believes that Stuart Skinner has reset. Calvin Pickard was excellent. There's no question. But when you're a coach and you know that, and you know you have that in your stable, if we're talking about secretariat, you now have a real good opportunity to make the change and do it with confidence. So Stuart Skinner, we know he wasn't very good in the first few games against LA. Chris makes the change, but he's not going to be hesitant to go back to Stuart Skinner and say, "Hey, let's go."
A lot of talk here about the Golden Knights blue line, and the Oilers having some forwards in the first round that, as they got healthier, started to be a little bit more physical. Evander Kane is back. Frederick started to move a little bit better. Paul Colson can get in on the forecheck as well. You know, Corey Perry is going to do his damnedest to kind of, make those guys pay the price a little bit. How much of this series comes down, do you think, to that Golden Knights blue line, and how can the Oilers do their best to take advantage of it?
Well, I think there's a template there. The template was the Minnesota Wild, putting a lot of pressure on that blue line and forcing them into turnovers and putting them under duress. And certainly with the health now of the forwards you just mentioned, the willingness of that forward group to do it. And, it's not just, we talk about physical play, but, Connor Brown is disruptive. Connor Brown, we talk about playoffs. Yeah. Connor Brown raises his game, but he's disruptive. Colson's heavy. When you get playing against a really good blue line, you want to wear them down. You want to just kind of, game one starts, first shift, second shift. And I thought Minnesota did a really nice job of doing that. Let's be really clear here. Aiden Hill wasn't that great in the first round.
No, he wasn't.
So I think the Edmonton Oilers, having a chance to get after the blue line with more health and Evander looks like he's in playoff Evander form too, and which is a good thing for the Oilers. But get on that blue line because they don't give up a lot. Put them under pressure. Put them under duress, and I think that the Oilers, have a lot of belief now that they have a team that can have success. I think they gained it over the LA Kings series. They needed to gain that confidence. But I think they have it now, and I think you look at the Minnesota Wild, how they played against Vegas, I think it's a good template.
So you like the Oilers to beat the Golden Knights?
Listen, I thought that the Oilers were in tough against the LA Kings. I just said, don't rule them out. Right now, the Oilers are getting healthier. The Vegas Golden Knights are showing some vulnerability. You know what I think it comes down to? I think it comes down to the fact if Aiden Hill is not better than he was versus the Minnesota Wild, the Oilers will win because the Oilers have a lot more firepower, and the power play is good. I can't bet against the Oilers. When I do, I get burnt.
Craig, before we let you go, just because the other series gets going tonight, Toronto, Florida, the Leafs. What they did to get by Ottawa, does that carry enough momentum to stop a Florida team that looks like they might be a wagon again?
Yeah, they look like a wagon. I think that Brad Treliving, I mean, Anthony Stolarz has been terrific. So, you're not giving up anything in the net. On the blue line, he built a blue line that I think that is a template for playoff success. I think he's got a blue line. He needed to do that. You're not winning with a whole bunch of smaller defensemen in the playoffs. And certainly Brad recognized that, the additions of Tanev, the additions of Brandon Carlo, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I think it's really built a really good, solid blue line. I think this series comes down to the third line and the depth of Florida, because I don't see where the Toronto Maple Leafs can match up on the third and fourth lines versus Florida. And further to that, like that first line, second line, third line, fourth line, they're just after you at every single turn. So it can wear down a defense. I don't think Toronto has the team built in the bottom end of their forward group, second, third, and fourth lines that can get Florida uncomfortable. I just don't.
Craig, as always, man, we really appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
There you go. That is Craig Button. You know what? We probably could have hit on the draft lottery bit with Button, but it just doesn't matter anymore here in Edmonton.
We don't talk about that stuff anymore.
Remember back in the day when today would have been the biggest day?
We ran that simulator like it was going out of style.
Oh, God, I do not miss those days. I mean, we had fun in those days, but I do not miss those days.